Girl, I tried working a traditional 9-to-5 job full-time after previously pursuing entrepreneurship for the last 10 years of my life. And I honestly learned a lot during my 6 months of working. It was one of the hardest things I have ever done in my adult life, and I felt so convicted because I was struggling to do quote unquote the right thing in the eyes of adulting. But God put this vision in my heart, and every single day that I went to work, it sucked the life out of me. I quickly knew that this was not in alignment for me or the purpose that God gave me. So I stepped out on faith again and quit my 9-to-5 job. Let's talk about it. So here's the thing about working a job that you absolutely hate. First of all, it is so draining. It sucks the life out of you, and it feels like it just continues to get worse over time versus it getting better. Like you never really get used to the job because your body begins to reject the job and your mind begins to reject the job. It also begins to consume you. So one of the things that I noticed is that my everyday life started to revolve around this job. And this is something that should be talked about a little bit more when it comes to working a traditional 9-to-5, because for one, I experienced that anything that I needed to go to take care of business or go to the bank or do whatever, go to a doctor's appointment, everything would be closed by the time I would get off work. And so then I would be limited to having to do everything on the weekends to try to play catch up. But the important stuff that I needed to get done at like the bank or at a doctor's appointment or whatever have you, everything was closed on the weekends. And then the only way that you could really take care of those things was if you did PTO or unpaid time off. And it's just like, why do I want to use PTO to go to the doctor? Like that just, I don't know, like that didn't make sense to me, which I mean, it's standard, but for me, it don't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me. And it just began to consume me. So even on the weekends when I was off, it more so felt like a countdown to when I had to work again. And so you really don't get enough time off when you're working a 9-to-5 because you're exhausted in the evening, and then on the weekends, really that first day, like Saturday is really like a rest day. It's really like you're playing catch up to get sleep or to just not be at work. And then you're forced to either take care of some important things that you need to take care of despite you needing to kind of just rest. And then Sunday, I feel is just a straight up countdown for when Monday is coming around. And I definitely experienced the Monday dread. There's actually a name for it. The Monday blues, is that what it's called? Where you so don't look forward to Monday. And then TGIF, like thank God it's Friday. I experienced that. I've never experienced that before, but in this season when I was working there, I experienced it. Fridays were like the best days after I got off work, and Sundays felt like the worst days because I knew that next morning I had to get up in the morning to go to work again. And this also caused my sleep schedule to be crazy because I found myself staying up purposefully because I didn't want to go to sleep because I knew I was going to have to wake up and go to work. I knew when I went to sleep, I would have to wake up and go to work again, and I was not ready to do it. And so I would procrastinate on going to sleep. And of course, anyone that knows if you get sleep deprived and you don't go to sleep when you need to go to sleep, it doesn't help you the next morning because then you be feeling like crap. And so it was like this repeated cycle. But my point is, it just consumed me. It seemed like that was all of my thoughts were about. I feel like I started complaining a lot more because I was always talking about how I don't like this job. And then even when I tried to stop complaining, because I know complaining never brings anything positive, even when I tried to be like, okay, let me stop talking about this job, I was constantly thinking about it because I felt stuck. And that's the ugly truth about being stuck at a job you hate. If you have options, you no longer feel that you have to be stuck because you're just not going to stay there. But a lot of us, we get stuck into this hamster wheel of needing to provide for our families or, needing to take this job and stay at this job for a certain amount of time because we got bills, okay? The bills don't care about anything else other than you being on time. And so we get stuck at these jobs, and if you don't work towards your exit strategy, it can be discouraging. I know for me, I felt stuck because I literally didn't have time to work on my exit strategy the way I wanted to. And so every week that would go by that I didn't push the needle forward the way that I intended, I would be disappointed in myself because I'm like, girl, you didn't get this done. So you're gonna have to stay here even longer. I don't know how long we're gonna have to stay here, but until we get this done, then you can't quit yet. Child. And then they say you need to have 6 months of savings, like financial savings, before you leave a job or have another job lined up, which logically it makes sense, right? Don't leave one job unless you have 6 months of income or 6 months of savings for you to be able to smoothly transition into another job or into entrepreneurship or whatever. But let's be real, like, let's visionaries, come on. Let's look at me when I say this next part. You know, when it comes to saving 6 months before you leave a job you hate, that's normally not a part of the equation. And so you as an adult feel bad because you're like, dang, I don't have this amount saved up. Like, do I still need to just suck this up? And I'm just telling you, I wasn't willing to do it. I wasn't willing to do it. I've quit jobs for a lot less. So that just wasn't my story, okay? And I'm just being transparent with you guys. Listen, I'm not giving you advice on anything. I'm not telling you to do what I do. I'm just telling you what I did. I don't know how people can work a job that they hate for years. Like, I literally felt like I was losing my sanity. And, you know, it's kind of the nature of the job too, like working at a call center, back-to-back calls, it is not for everybody, right? So it also had a lot to do with the type of job as well. I feel like if it was a job that was off the phones, like admin or something like on the computer, because I know some people don't like that, I would dominate with that. It really was a lot to do with the nature of the job, but also the 40 hours per week. I knew it was time for me to leave the job when all of the coping methods that I was trying was no longer working. So I came up with a whole system to try to make the job a little bit easier for me to deal with. So I tried different tactics. So one of the things that I did, I bought this thing right here, which I actually love this. I still use this today, but it's called Believing Bigger, 365 Days of Believing Bigger. So I bought this and it's basically like a daily, I guess, devotional or something like that. It has scripture in it. It also has like just motivating quotes and things. And my point in doing this was every day I was gonna flip it and get a word from God or get some type of positive devotional or something just to get me going, right? It helped for a couple days. I'll give it that. It helped for a couple days. I also started to get myself up earlier because one of the things that I fell into with working the job as well was some days I would go back to sleep after allowing my kids to go to school. So every morning I get up, make sure the kids get on the bus, and I would go back to sleep until it's time for me to go to work. Well, I had to stop doing that because I was absolutely miserable getting up to hop on the phone. So I started staying up so that way I could be mentally prepared to work with customers and like do the repetitiveness with all the other stuff. But I knew it was time to leave when the methods weren't working anymore. So I was getting up early, staying up. I was doing my devotional. I was praying to God every morning. Some days I would listen to like something motivational to just try to get me going as well. And none of the stuff that I was doing was working. It even got to a point where I froze on the job. This was the day I knew subconsciously that this was my last day. I froze at work because, for one, I'm already dealing with anxiety at this point. I'm already dealing with like heightened emotions because I don't know if you've ever experienced trying to push through something that you don't want to do. And I feel like everybody has their limit where they have to make a decision. And I was at that point, but it literally got to a place where I clocked in after doing all this pep talk, prayer, doing all the things to try to prepare me to get clocked in and work in the job. And the first call came through and I couldn't say anything. Like, I froze. And I'm like thinking to myself, Shonda, you got to push through. Shonda, you got to get it together. You got to get it together. And so I'm trying to, like, I'm literally, the customer's on the other end, like, hello, and I can't speak. And that was actually scary because my body physically started to reject the job. And I've never been in that situation where I couldn't even verbally talk because my body was like, I'm not doing this no more. And eventually I was able to say something, and the customer had an attitude, and they had whatever I don't even remember what the problem was with them, but they were calling because of whatever. And literally I couldn't do it. I'm listening to this person, and they weren't irate, but they were really just not in a good mood. Let's just say that. And as I'm talking to this customer, there's like tears rolling down my face. And I'm like, Shonda, get it together. Shonda, get it together. And now I'm concerned because I'm like, I don't want my voice to tremble while I'm on this phone call, because you know how like when you start crying, you can hear it in your voice. And I'm literally trying to push through it. So I don't even remember what happened. I think I transferred them or something like that. And then I took a break, and I was like, I need to go on break. I need to talk to God. I need to figure out how I can get through this. And so I went on my break. I'm praying to God. I'm pacing back and forth like, Lord, help me push through this. Lord, help me push through this. My break is up, and I take another call. And this customer also has an attitude. Now, mind you, even the second call that I took, this was actually the day that ended up being my last day. Now that I think about it, the second call also had an attitude. And it's amazing how things play out when you've made a decision. I paused before I said anything again because I still was freezing. So that was still a thing. Like even on the second call, I froze. And then the customer's upset and telling me what's going on. And I'm just listening to them, and I'm like thinking to myself, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. And so I don't even remember what I said on the call. I remember tears started falling again. I took my lunch. I went on lunch. And I was like, Shonda, you got to figure out what you're going to do, because you can't be doing this on the phones. And this was the first time I've done this on the phone. So I was praying to God, and I'm reaching out to my manager. She's not answering. Like literally, I was put in a position where I was isolated, and I had to make my own decision. And I left. I knew that once I started freezing on the calls, that was it for me. I also started dealing with just irate customers at the end of my experience there. Like I got cursed out, I got called the N-word, it was just all over auto insurance, like the craziest thing. But the customers started going past the boundaries that I had for myself, and not even just as an agent, just in general. You know how you always have like a limit. You have like these certain things. I didn't apply to deal with irate customers. I applied to deal with customers who were looking for auto insurance, right? So I think there's a difference when you know the job, like customer service, for example. If I'm in customer service, I know it's going to be some irate customers because they calling to see what's going on with their bill, you know, why they got these late fees, why was my stuff canceled. So that is a job where I feel like you anticipate and you mentally prepare yourself for those customers. And I listen to the people on TikTok who like record their experiences being in customer service. I couldn't do it. Like, I don't know how they do it, but I couldn't do it. That is not the job for me. The stuff that they be having to deal with, I would not apply to a job like that because I just know I couldn't do it. I applied to a sales position for new business, all new business. We didn't deal with any customers that were already customers with my company. And the customers started just getting outrageous. And I feel like it was a buildup, right? Because I feel like sometimes God will push you to a point where you are forced to make a decision for yourself. And I was so scared, and I'm gonna go into that. That actually is the next thing that I'm gonna cover. I'm gonna just be real with you. I was absolutely terrified to leave the job, and I did not give it 2 weeks. Normally I try to give it 2 weeks, but this was not the type of situation where I could give it 2 weeks. And I feel like that's a whole nother video in reference to how I feel about 2-week notices. But long story short, I knew that when I left, it wasn't gonna be a 2-week notice type of situation. But I was terrified, and it was for different reasons. And I wanna kind of talk about it. So if you watched my previous video, which I'll put it right here, if you have not seen it already, where I actually quit my job before, which was a call center job. And that one was a customer service and sales position. And that didn't last long, because I told you before, the customer service thing is not for me. The reason why I was extremely scared this time around to quit the job is because when I quit that job last time, things eventually hit the fan. So things started off great, but then eventually things started to hit the fan. And so me and my family went through financial turmoil. Like, it was just a whole bunch of different stuff was happening. I didn't realize at the time that God was trying to get my attention. I do know now, and I kind of talked a little bit more about that in my previous video before this, about why I was gone and what happened while I was away and all this other stuff. But God was trying to get my attention. And I'm sitting here like I'm spinning my wheels, like I'm doing everything that I know to like bring in finances, and for some reason water just stopped flowing. And I knew that it was one of those situations where it wasn't because of my efforts. It was like something was intentionally stopping it from flowing. And that was the first time I ever experienced that, where I'm like, wait a minute, this is not normal. This is not normal for me. Like, I'm confused to what's going on. Something else has to be going on, because this doesn't make sense why it's happening the way it was. And I was right, because God was trying to get my attention. But I was scared because I'm like, okay, if I quit this job, is this gonna happen again? Is this gonna happen again? Like, I'm terrified. That was the first reason. The second reason why I was scared was because I feared that I would be disobedient to God, what God had for me. And what I mean by that is because God was giving me so many lessons while I was working at this job. I mean, I'm gonna go over them in a little bit, but I learned so many things as a result of me working this job. And so I was just like, would it make sense for me to leave this job from a spiritual level if God is giving me all these lessons in this job? And I didn't want to get out of alignment with God, because even with the first job that I left, I knew that God didn't want me to leave that job. It was kind of one of those situations like, hey, God, I made my decision. Like, I need you to have my back. And it was like an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, by the way, I quit that job because my man got 2 jobs. And if I'm scratching in my eye because it's pollen, y'all, oh my God. I wasn't discussing and making decisions with God in mind before. This time it was different. And I actually stayed at this job a lot longer than I anticipated. It's crazy to say that because I was only there for 6 months. Those are the longest 6 months that I've experienced, but I stayed longer because I wanted to make sure that I was in alignment with God. I did not want to quit that job, and God was telling me don't quit it. So I was really nervous about leaving this time around because I'm like, God, are you gonna be mad at me if I leave this job? Like, am I gonna miss my lesson by not staying? Because the longer I stayed, the more I learned. Lessons that I had no intention on learning. That's the thing. God knows how to put lessons in front of you to make you grow that you ain't asked for, but he knew you needed it. And so that was a concern. And I also stayed out of learning from my past mistakes, right? So I kind of already hit on that with me leaving the other job way too early. This time around, I was like, nah, I know what happened last time. I'm not gonna do that again. I'm going to make sure that I'm smart about it. I tried to come up with this whole exit plan, and your journey isn't gonna look like everybody else's. And some things that you're gonna do isn't gonna make sense for everybody. And so it may not make sense for some people as to, despite the past mistakes, why I would leave anyway. But trust me, I had the same questions for myself because I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, why can't I do this adulting thing? Like, why can't I just work a normal 9-to-5 job? Why can't I just get used to this? There are people who work a job that they hate for a long time and they're fine. Like, why can't I do it? What's wrong with me? Like, why can't I push through this? Why am I allowing my mental health to not allow me to push through this? And I had those questions for myself, and I felt like I was failing as a mom. I felt like I was failing as a wife. I felt like I was failing as a child of God. Like, I felt like a failure in the process of me wanting to quit, because I'm like, why am I wanting to quit? Like, this is sustainable. This is the way you're supposed to do things, right? This is the correct way that you're supposed to do things. And I listened and I heard this video.
I feel like I inherited that. I can't do it. I just cannot sit down and like go to a job for 8 hours a day for 50 years and then hope at the end of that time that like I've saved up enough money that like then I can kind of start living my life. I can't do it. I got that runaway slave energy of my ancestors in me. I can't do it. You can't put together a system and say Tim has to be in it. I can't, you know? And it's funny that like every time I have tried to just kind of like give in and do things the way people said do it, I just felt trapped. You know what I mean? I felt stifled. I felt like I couldn't grow. I felt like it wasn't me. Just something was off. My way of preparing for my future and my way of starting to do things to take care of myself when I'm older doesn't have to be your way. In fact, I don't think my way of taking care of myself for the future is going to be the normal way. I can't just be like, well, I'm getting older now, so I'm just going to, you know, buckle down and do things Massa's way. I can't. If I get off the plantation now, you know what I mean? If I stay off the plantation now, if I head up north, right, and I get to a place where we free, then I can stay free my whole life, right? I can't like start enslaving myself now and start doing things the normal way, the right way, the way everybody else does it, because I'm scared for the future. Why not take the risk now? And here's the thing too, just like our ancestors, they knew the risk. They took them. Sometimes it didn't work out. Some of them made it up north. Some of them made it to Philadelphia, New York, whatever. Some didn't. Some died along the way. Some came back. Some got caught and came back, and it was bad for them. But they had to take the risk. And this is not a race thing. You can have runaway slave energy in you and be any race, color, creed. You know, so if you're somebody who also just can't, please know that's not a problem. That's just the way we're built. And like, I think when you're built to where like you can't just conform, when you're built to like you have to do things your own way, I think that also comes with the strength that maybe other people don't have. And that's not a knock on them. I don't have the strength to get up and go to a job every single day for 50 years.
I definitely recommend when you get a moment to check out that video. I'm gonna link it below because this guy talks about some really, really good stuff in that video in reference to having runaway slave energy. And I have never heard anyone put how I feel into terms the way that he put it into terms. And what he basically was saying is some people just have to go through their journey differently than other people. So back in slavery, you had runaway slaves, right? And you had people who didn't run away. And despite the risk that they knew in reference to them trying to get free, they didn't care. They were like, I accept the risk. I'm willing to risk it all to try to get to freedom. And some of them made it and some of them didn't. And then some people thought it was just absolutely crazy for them to even consider running because of the risks that were involved. And basically his point was you have some people who refuse to run and kind of look at people as if they're crazy for running. And then you have people who choose to run anyway. Like, I understand the risk, but I want to be free. And so he was saying that he feels like he has runaway slave energy, and I feel like I have runaway slave energy. It is hard to say. Like, I don't mean no disrespect to slaves or anything like that, but I resonate with that because I'm like, I cannot conform to working a traditional 9-to-5. Like, it is just not for me. No matter what job I've ever worked, even if it was an easy job, it's always come back to the same situations, like same pattern, different position. It seems like the longer I'm there, the more the fire burns in me to get out of there because I'm not supposed to be there. It's almost like God makes me uncomfortable to make sure that I don't get comfortable working that type of job for a long time because I'm here for a different purpose, right? Like, I'm here for a completely different purpose. And when I think about the skills, the abilities and talents that God gave me, even though I can do them in the job, like when I was an insurance agent at my last job, I was educating the customers because I'm a natural teacher. I'm over here teaching the customers about their policies and different things. And they were so grateful. So it comes out regardless of what position that I'm in or what thing I'm pursuing. If you're a visionary and if you're an entrepreneur, you know the bug that I'm talking about. You can't scratch the itch. no matter what position you try to get in. You just can't. It just continues to come back. You can't let it go. You can't stop thinking about it. If you're not pushing the needle forward in the thing that you feel is your purpose, or in the business that you are longing to have full time, you almost feel defeated. Like you feel like you can tell when you're not pushing the needle forward. And when something is getting in the way of you pursuing the vision, it really starts messing with you. And I feel like spiritually, God makes you uncomfortable because he knows that you can't get comfortable in this position that you're in. You need to be pushing a needle forward towards the purpose that he has for you. Another thing that he hit on in that video is talking about how the system keeps us reliant on the system. Because anytime your journey in entrepreneurship isn't working the way that you wanted it to work, the default advice is, oh, well, you need to get a 9-to-5 until you can get steady income again. Or, oh, you need to build your business beside your 9-to-5. And how I look at that is, instead of teaching you how to fish on your own and produce your own income, you are reliant on someone to bring you fish. And until you learn how to go out and get your own fish, you will always have to go back to a job. When you hit the bottom, you're faced with a decision. Am I gonna go and get a traditional 9-to-5, or am I gonna figure out how to bring in my own money? As long as they're continuing to bring you fish, you're gonna be reliant on them continuing to bring you fish because you never learned how to go out there and fish. And that's how I look at traditional corporate America, because you're relying on them saying yes to you. You're relying on them giving you promotions. You're relying on everything that system has created for us. And even now, like, it's not even easy for you to get a job in corporate America now. So you might as well pursue the business. You know, so that's just my viewpoint on that. You could let me know your thoughts in the comments in reference to that. But I do feel like working a traditional job is like fishing. You're either going out and getting your own fish, meaning you're going out there and learning how to make your own sales. You're going out there and learning how to bring in your own customers. You're going out there and learning how to bring in revenue for yourself, for your family, where it's uncapped. You don't have to wait on someone to promote you to increase your revenue. You're not waiting on someone to write a book for you so that you can go out there and do the sales for them as far as like admin or whatever in the background. And then you just get a check at the end of the week or at the end of 2 weeks, which 2 weeks, craziness. Everyone is not meant to work a 9-to-5, and I understand that. And when you understand that, you do have to make sure that you make decisions that are best for you and your family, but you also have to understand that your diligence is going to look different when you realize that. Because if you're not meant to work a 9-to-5, you almost feel like you're going against the grain. You're going against the norm. People are going to look at you like you're crazy. And you have to be prepared for that. You also have to be prepared for things not always being stable. If you're an entrepreneur, you know things are up and down. It's not guaranteed that everything is going to flow like water. It's not guaranteed that you're going to have high sale months every single month. And so you have to learn how to be a good steward over what you're blessed with when you do get it. Once you learn that, it can be a little bit smoother, but you have to be diligent regardless of which path you choose. And I'm gonna end with this. If you're afraid to quit your job, I want you to remember this, because this is what really, really helped me. I had to go to scripture to help me build the confidence to be like, regardless of if this path doesn't go exactly how I wanted it to go, remember this scripture. Proverbs 16 verse 9 says, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." So remember, whichever path you choose, whichever path I choose, God is directing our steps regardless. And everything that we do is still going to bring glory to his name at the end of the day, because all paths go back to what he wants us to do to serve the kingdom. It's just going to come with different lessons. Maybe staying at the job would have been a smoother transition for me in reference to going full time as an entrepreneur. I'll never know because I didn't choose that path. Maybe this was the time where I needed to make that decision so that I could finally start taking my business serious at the place where I'm no longer able to settle for defeat. Like before, I would curl up under pressure. Well, I can afford to curl up under pressure in this season. So there's a lesson on either path that we choose, but don't live in fear, because God didn't create us to live in fear. And I want you to remember that. Do I have a plan? Yes, I do have a plan. I have a plan in place in reference to what I plan on doing as a result of me quitting the job. I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when it was coming. Well, it's here. I just returned the equipment. Like, it's final, it's done. I don't work that job anymore. I have not applied to another job. I don't even know if I'm going to apply to another job. I'm just going to kind of let God tell me what my next steps are in reference to if I'm going to apply to another job or if I'm just going to pursue business full time and content creation full time. But I trust my God. I trust God. He's had me so far, even when I was rebellious. I'm doing a whole video on that because I used to be very upset with God. He loved me. He continued to actively try to get me back to him. And sometimes he had to bring you to your knees before you start paying attention and actually turning back to him because we're stubborn. But I know this time. I understand this time. I know exactly who my God is this time around. And I know that he takes care of his children. And so that brings me peace in this season with me making such a big step. And so I'm going to end the video here. Thank you for allowing me to be vulnerable with you guys and just really share my truth in reference to me quitting my job again, some lessons that I took away. Hopefully this was able to minister to you in some type of way. I prayed before I even did this video, like, God, let this reach whoever is supposed to reach. I feel like someone got something from this message. And so if that's you, please let me know in the comments because I would love to know how the message impacted you because that is what this channel and this content is about. And so if you made it this far in the video, I want you to comment, I have a big God, in the comment section so that I can know that you watched the video all the way through. And I thank you so much for watching this video and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.